on to the avocados, and there hasn't been a whole lot of change. That's a new guy over there, and we have a new one in the front. I filled up my 2 dead holes in the planters. So I took 2 of the ones that I was growing over here, a Pinkerton and a Reed, and put the Pinkerton in the front yard. Wanted to do hardier ones, but that's kind of what I had right now. These 2 are redundant. There's a Fuerte and a Lamb Haas. I think it's the other way around, actually, but I already have those, so I didn't want to transplant one of those guys. And they are looking much healthier this year. They're a little shorter than I would like. I'm kind of thinking it's because of the netting. You know, these are not plant nettings. This is people shade netting, and I think maybe it's cutting off a little bit too much of the sunlight, but they're starting to grow out from it, so I'm kind of torn on that because it gets so hot. But they are getting some nice growth here. I fertilized them, watered them, did a molasses spray on them a little while ago, and I noticed I was getting snails and slugs in my little fertilizer watering tube, so after I watered, I put Ziploc bags on them. So this is the Lamb Haas, just to remind everybody, getting some nice deep green leaves starting here, and I'm hoping this guy is going to explode. This is a little bit, this is kind of blocking our sunlight coming in on the summer, so that and a tall fence, this little guy doesn't get much light, but it looks like it's making a break for it. The dog has gone bananas back here, dog territory. This is my Haas, and it's getting a lot of little sprouts starting. Little guys down there, if you can see all that. This guy is kind of just sort of on shaky ground in limbo territory. This is where my surprise died, and this was just a little $20 Haas I bought at Lowe's, and it's actually doing pretty good, so I'm not messing with this. It's alive and it's doing well. And this guy is where I have tried to plant a Reed 2 times, and I dug out a lot of the soil that was in here, pushed it off to the side, and filled this in with almost all sand and perlite. Planted this guy into it. Ooh, wow. Bees are going crazy here. You can hear them, it's like a hum. Anyways, this is my second try at a Reed in this hole, so, you know, fingers crossed this year. It's not super deep soil. I just kind of mounded it up. I actually need to get a little bit more soil, but I think this way it gets a little bit more air. It's not super deep, so it kind of roots and then it can dry out and get some air in there. So, you know, this was about a week ago, and these are nice big leaves. I put some B1 and some fish fertilizer and some other things in there. So when I put this Reed in, transplanted him in about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, he's been pretty happy. So when I watered it, I used some B1, some garden floss, and just like a teeny little bit of kelp, and it seems to be doing really well. Nice big leaves, a little bit curled over, but that's kind of what Reeds do, but the leaves have not fallen off, so it hasn't freaked out, gone into shock. So hopefully it'll be all right. It's purposefully a little bit on the shallow side here, so it's all mounded over this, not so much deep on the edges, so it can get some air and it can breathe in there. So fingers crossed on this guy once again. And this is the Holiday. I basically loosened up on the tie straps here, where now we can get some swing here and hopefully take away some of the noodliness. Holidays are super noodly, so I'm hoping it'll swing around, harden up a little bit. If I took that support string out, it would just flop on the ground like a bush. But tons of growth coming in here, because all that intense sunlight comes in through here. But nice deep color on these guys. So got my fingers crossed on the Holiday. And over here we've got the Little Cado. It's kind of a little bit more of a pale lime color, but look at the size of these leaves. I've got a pretty big hand, and look at these things. Whew. So it is going. This is kind of what the shade fabric does. This is a super intense light. It cooked this guy almost to death, so this one will probably leave shaded, but the drawback is, look at this. This internode is huge. It's like 4 or 5 inches almost, because that guy had to stretch up to get to the sun. But once you finally get up to the top, it calms down a little bit. It's about every ½ inch more like what it's supposed to be. So you know what, let the tree do what it needs to do. It can always sprout out from down there later on and thicken itself up. So if this guy's doing good, real happy with it. A lot of these guys had bumpy starts, but now they've been rooted in for a couple of years. So hopefully this will be the year it gets a lot of growth. So I put some Job's citrus fertilizer down inside there, watered it in, sprinkled some more in the soil, watered all that in, and we're at the tail end of March, heading into April. So hopefully we'll get a lot of good growth. And I'll head to the front here. Almost forgot real quick, I also took the stake out of these guys. These are my 5-gallon spares, and just put like a hanging string type of deal so that they kind of flop around, blow around on the breeze. But this is a spare fuerte. I think 5 gallons are about the perfect thing to keep these in before they get too heavy and too awkward. And same thing here, just allow them a little flip-flop around. This is my spare lamb house. So if that guy doesn't make it, doesn't get going, I've got another spare lamb house I can throw in there. I almost forgot about my 2 little supermarket house seedlings that I sprouted up, and they're actually doing quite well. Just throw a little bit of water at them, just kind of leave them alone to do their own thing, and this guy's coming out really nice, all balanced out, proportioned well. This guy, I don't know, it's kind of it's a stick with all the growth piled up on the end. It's kind of odd. His trunk is real kind of pebbly too. This one's smooth, so these 2 are definitely some kind of different seedlings. They are not from the same genetics bunch. I'm positive of that. Anyways, moving on to the front now. And this is the front yard, guys. That's the new plant over there. That is my Pinkerton. Nice, big, tall, doing well. I have this arborvitae basically just acting as a sunshade for it, so it doesn't get completely blasted by the afternoon sun. But did the same thing, watered it with the B1 and the garden floss, and it hasn't freaked out and lost its leaves either, so crossing my fingers on this guy too. I wanted to put hardier plants here, but I just kind of had the Pinkerton and it was getting nice and big, so if this pulls out and it makes it, I'll be really happy with it in the front yard. That'll be nice, because they're kind of smaller and going in between a Mexicola, which is also doing pretty good, budding out, and my Fuerte, which are 2 very big trees. It'd be nice to have a little small tree in between the 2. So now the Fuerte is doing pretty good. It basically gets blasted by that sun, which is the reason why I have this god-awful tarp, which I have some proper screening coming, but that was just something I had to throw up, and it was going to go for a garbage can anyway, so it can be there for a week. But I have lots of new leaf sets starting on this guy. It got watered and fertilized well too. Nice thick mulch down here. And this branch has just got all kinds of stuff starting up here. So hopefully this guy will work out. One thing that I did is this part has just been blasted by the sun. So instead of painting it, which I might do, I noticed if I just got a piece of paper, I stapled it together, it's worked great. Because airflow can get in there, breathe, and it keeps it from getting all burnt up. So my cheap little binder paper, printer paper, works great to keep that one tip of the branch from getting sun fried. And that's pretty much it for the avocados, guys. Next step is I get to go into all my fruit trees with the pluots and my little cherry tree experiment, and I'll tell you guys where all those are. So cross your fingers on the Pilkington and the reed for me. Thanks, guys.